Hello, everybody. Everybody. I'm pumped up. This stuff just energized me. You always see me come on these shows here. I'm bouncing, I'm jumping, I'm bouncing around. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I am Chuck from CyberHoot, and today we're talking about one of those cybersecurity moments where the technology may be doing exactly what it was designed to do, while also making our humans go, wait, what? For years, we've trained employees. Hover over the link, inspect the URL. If it looks weird, don't click it. Hey, that was good advice. Then along comes URL rewriting. So now a Microsoft.com/reset suddenly becomes something like security/safety/87G. I don't even finish that whole thing, right? Becomes weird. And now the safe link looks like something your cousin accidentally downloaded from a pop-up in 2007. So here's today's big question. Are we protecting users or accidentally training them to ignore one of Phishy's biggest warning signs ever? Because there's a real tension here. Automation can inspect links at a scale humans never could. But if every link starts looking suspicious, what happens to all that awareness training that we spent years building together? Today, we're going to break down where URL rewriting actually helps, where it can confuse people, and what employees should actually be looking for now. So, spoiler alert on this, the answer probably isn't automation or humans. It's figuring out how the two work together without stepping on each other's toes. So, grab your coffee, hover carefully, let's get into it. This is Shoot the Hoot RAW, unscripted, unfiltered, unapologetically, CyberHoot. Let's go. All right, for years, this has been one of the simplest rules in phishing awareness. Hover, inspect, decide. Simple. Hover, inspect, decide. Before you click the link, take a second. Look where it's actually going. If the email says Microsoft, but the link says totally-not a criminal.ru, maybe we don't want to click that one. And that habit became part of our human security layer. We weren't trying to turn employees into forensic investigators. We were just giving them a simple pause button. Pause. Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense? I love the pause. You know I do. That little pause, it matters, folks. It matters because good security habits are usually not complicated. They're small decisions repeated over and over again. Hover, inspect, question, then decide. But here's where things get interesting. Once we teach people a habit like that, technology doesn't get to change the rules quietly without them knowing. Because security tools suddenly rewrites every link into a giant pile of letters, numbers, slashes, and mystery sauce. We may have just changed the meaning of weird URL. And now the employee is left thinking, wait, you told me weird links are bad. Now all the good links look weird too? Killing me, dude, right? So that's not an employee problem, though. That's a training and technology alignment problem. So the lesson here is simple. Before we change the technology, we need to understand what security behavior we may be changing with it. So our hoot rule from this slide is simple. If you teach people a security habit, understand what happens before technology changes that habit. And here's where security world did something very security worldish, I guess. I don't know. We told people if the link looks weird, just stop. Stop. Then we installed a tool that makes every link look weird. Great. Thank you. Right? Before you are rewriting, you might see the bank.com/login. Pretty clear, pretty obvious, right? But after rewriting, you might see something like securitydefender.com/ABC123XYZ. Right? Now the tool is getting something valuable, right? The tool is doing awesome stuff. It's doing automated scanning. It can inspect the destination, check reputation, block known bad sites, sometimes stop a malicious click before it becomes a bad afternoon for us, right? That's good. That's awesome. That's what we're thriving for. But the human may have lost something too. Destination context. They can no longer glance at the link and easily understand where it's supposed to go. And that's the tension, folks. That's tension. This is not a case of URL rewriting equals bad. It's a case of one security layer can accidentally weaken another. So technology really changes this in isolation, right? When you change the tool, you may also change the employee's decision-making process. If nobody updates the training, now we've got humans following yesterday's rules for today's technology. That's how confusion sets in, right? It's how it just sneaks right into the process. So the question isn't, should we use URL rewriting? No, the better question is, if we use it, what do we need to teach differently? Because security controls don't change traffic, they change behavior. And that leads to this slide's hoot rule. Every security control changes human behavior, even when humans aren't the target of it. Now, here's where I think this whole debate gets simple. People ask, should we trust a security tool or the employee? Wrong question. Wrong question. The best defense is not automation or awareness. It's automation that doesn't sabotage awareness. Let the machines do what machines are good at, right? Let them scan the links. Let them check reputation. Let them analyze the destination. Let them block known threats at machine speed faster than any human eye could. And then let people do what people are better at. Ask, does this request make sense? Why am I being pressured? Was I expecting this? And is this person really asking me to do this now? Because here's the problem with teaching. Here's the problem with if we try to teach people, hey, look, where URL equals phishing. There's a problem with that. The problem is technology changes, attackers change, URLs change, and suddenly yesterday's training becomes today's confusion. A stronger lesson is simple. Unexpected requests, unusual context, pressure, destination uncertainty. When those things start stacking up, slow down and verify. This lesson, that lesson right there survives URL rewriting. It survives AI-generated phishing. It survives whatever ugly little trick shows up next Tuesday. So I don't want employees memorizing what a good URL looks like. Not at all. I want them developing judgment, right? Machines can inspect the link. Let them do their things. Humans can inspect the intent. Put those together, and now you've got something much stronger than either one of them by themselves. You know what you've got there? Boom, layered defense. Layered defense. We love that, don't we, security folks? And that brings us to a hoot rule. You train the judgment, not the URL memorization, because technology changes, but good judgment travels, right? It thrives. So humans bring judgment, machines bring scale, machines bring the scale, and together they make us safer. Speaking of machines, doing useful things for us behind the scenes, let's see what our nerds have been doing this week, what they've been wiring up for us. It's time for our nerd update. Oh, but first, you know what the first is, don't you? Here it comes, boom, 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 bam, right? Be the first to email URL rewrite 10 to shoothoot@cyber.com and get 10% off your next invoice. Type it in, click send, and get that 10. And if you're not watching live, no worries. Email us anyway. We may just give you the 10% off. A nice style like that, right? So the only catch is you're limited to one of these discounts per month. All right, over to our nerd update. So, all right, of course, the nerds have been busy again. And this week, there's one very obvious theme. Cyber is getting a whole lot friendlier with the tools MSPs already live in every day. First up, our PSA integrations. We've been building integrations with Halo PSA, AutoTask, ConnectWise, so partners will be able to connect their PSA, map companies or clients, and sync users directly in the cyber group for training. That means, less of the export to CSV, clean the CSV, import to CSV, discover that Carl has 3 email addresses, cry quietly, right? No, less of that, more of connect it, map it, sync it, done. Love it. The goal is simple. If your customer data already exists somewhere else, no one should make you type it in all over again, right? Now, we're also connecting with IT Glue and Hoodoo, right? So instead of partners having to jump into cyber every time they want to check training status, we're working toward publishing that information right into the documentation platforms you already use. That's one of my favorite kinds of improvement, right? Put that information where people actually are already working. Don't create another scavenger hunt for it. Next. Attackfish got some housekeeping too. Projected phishing results now show correctly as pending, right? We had that problem before. And guess what? Turning Attackfish back on won't accidentally resurrect a campaign that's already finished. So because, completed campaigns, they should stay completed, right? Zombie phishing campaigns sound entertaining. Trust me, they do, until you're the one explaining them to a customer. Like, oh, why did that come back? I don't know. Next, user and training reliability. We tightened up how users interact with the default group. When editing a user, you can see their real group membership and will warn you if something is missing. Also, restored users get put back into the default group so their training can resume properly. Basically, what we got here is when we bring someone back from the archives, training will continue for them. Super simple. Assessment power-up updates. So we also made another round of tweaks to the new assessment power-up. Nothing giant to announce yet, just more polish as we continue getting it ready for prime time. Once we have our library built and built up a little bit more, we'll open this power up for everyone. Just be a little bit patient with us. We're building that library out. You will soon have the power of assessments, surveys, and quizzes at your fingertips, right? And then there's the stuff that partners may never notice, which is exactly how we like it, right? So we improved the partner logged timestamp so they respect the partner's configured time zone, cleaned up the integration branding with official vendor logos, and made various behind-the-scenes API and platform improvements supporting all those new integrations. So not flashy, but you know what? Neither is air conditioning, right? But you only notice it when it's too hot or too cold, right? If it's just right, no one complains, and that's where I like to be. No one's complaining. So this next, this nerd update here really comes down to like three things. One, more integrations. Two, less manual work. Three, better reliability. Or translated from nerd, fewer clicks, fewer spreadsheets, happier MSPs. Hey, listen, folks, that's your nerd update. Now, let's put the tools aside for a second. Get the questions humans actually have, right? So is this time for our open mic? All right, here. Let's go over here. Now, I've always got my canned questions. So let's start our Q&A. Let's start our Q&A with, the question that security teams are probably yelling at their screens right now. So, should we still teach people to inspect links? Yes, but not the way we used to, right? So, top up question one here. Boom. All right. Is URL rewriting actually worth using? Potentially, yes. It gives you another automated inspection layer and can catch those malicious destinations after the email lands, right? That's useful. That's important. But it also means the link may no longer look like the place it's actually going. So congratulations, we made the link safer and uglier, right? So cybersecurity here is you're solving one problem while creating a training slide for another, right? So be careful with that. But yes, definitely potentially use it, but just be careful, right? Question two here. Boom. All right, does URL rewriting make phishing training useless? No, it does not. But it does mean the training has to evolve, right? If your entire lesson is weird URL equals phishing, you're going to confuse people the minute a security product turns every legitimate URL into alphabet soup. It's going to happen. That lesson is just too brittle to be teaching. The better lesson is, does this request make sense, right? Does it make sense? If not, ignore it. All right, my final canned question here that we hear all the time. What should employees actually inspect? So look, not just the URL. You have to inspect the entire request. Who sent it? Were you expecting it? What are they asking you to do? Is there urgency in this? Does the destination make sense? And can you verify it another way? That will allow you to make good judgment. And judgment age is much better than memorizing what a good URL is supposed to look like. So here's the simplest way to put it, right? The human should not be your URL scanner. We've got technology that can do that for us at a lot faster pace, right? Machines are much better at inspecting those millions of links, right? Humans are better at noticing, wait, why is the CEO asking me to buy 12 gift cards at 4:57 p.m. on a Friday afternoon? That's where people shine, making those judgment calls. So the goal is not to turn humans into machines. We're not trying to do that. This is just got a weird Terminator vibe feel there, right? But no, we want to let each side do what it does best, right? Let the machines do their things. Let the humans do their things. So our governing rule here is let machine inspect links and teach humans to inspect intent. That one is worth remembering. Right. No other questions right now. So let's hop over here. Boom. Yep. Just like that, folks. That's a wrap for episode 57 of Shoot the Hoot RAW, right? So today's lesson is pretty simple. For years, we trained people to look at the link. Now, technology is making that link harder to understand. So the lesson has to evolve. The old rule was weird link, don't click. The better rule is unexpected request, slow down, verify the person, the purpose, and the destination. Because attackers are going to keep changing. They're going to keep doing it. The tools are going to keep changing. And if our training only works until the net security feature gets turned on, that's not much of a training program. So let the machines do what machines do best. Scan, analyze, and block. And let people do what people do best. Question, think, verify, report. That's the combination that gives us real layered defense. So if there's one thing you remember from today, make it this. Let machines inspect links, teach humans to inspect intent. So if this episode here made you think, share with one of your fellow owls, an IT pal, or somebody who still thinks hovering over a link solves all of phishing. And make sure you come back next week. We'll have another real-world cybersecurity topic, a little nerdiness, hopefully at least one questionable joke. I'm Chuck from Cyber Hoot, and it's been a joy sharing with you today. Until next time, I want you all to laugh. I want you to learn. And what else? Hoot up. Hoot up.